Hi GenderqueerChat, it's Callie, it's Saturday, and this week the topic is about stone and asexuality. The question precisely is, how prevalent is stone and asexuality in the genderqueer community, and how does being genderqueer generally affect your sexuality? Okay, so I don't know, I will say in answer to the first question, how prevalent stone and asexuality is in the genderqueer community, because I'm not in the real world. I am kind of on the internet, but not in the real world, and a big part of a genderqueer community per se. But I will say that I've encountered the idea of stone through various ways, and it's kind of, I think, part of the kind of stone boot identity is part of the history of transness and genderqueerness. But how prevalent it is, like as a percentage, like statistically, Kinsey style, I don't know. And ditto for asexuality. However, what I am probably in a position to comment on is that I really like the kind of internet asexual community, although I don't myself identify as asexual. I'm going to come on to that a bit later, but I follow blogs about asexuality and that sort of thing, but and one of the things that I find in that kind of internet asexual community is that people tend to be much more, because it does tend to constitute itself as part of a broader, very broad queer community, and it seems to contain kind of more awareness of and acceptance of genderqueer identity, which I think is really cool. So it works the other way around too. So there's probably more awareness of and acceptance of asexuality in genderqueer community, and awareness of and acceptance of genderqueerness in the sexual community, but what the overlap of people who actually identify as both those things is, I'm not really in a position to comment on. But yes, the asexual community I think is really cool. There's one thing I just discovered recently on Tumblr. I don't have a Tumblr, but I find them very addictive. Like, I'll find one and go through loads and loads of pages of them. And there's a Tumblr that I saw recently that I liked, which was called asexual porn, and most of it is just pictures of really nice cakes. I used to have these two flatmates, and they were quite traditional straight cis women, and they used to refer to cookbooks with loads of really nice glossy photographs of cakes and baking as porn for women, and that never sat right with me, because obviously there are lots of women who like to look at proper porn of people having sex, but they're the same thing that they refer to as women's porn is in this, I think, much more accurately referred to as asexual porn, because some of these pictures of cakes, I'm telling you, if you are into that sort of thing, which I am, it just makes the mouth water. My mouth is watering now just thinking about it. There was this one of like a pie that looked like it was made entirely of whipped cream. yeah. So yeah, things like that I found really, because it's something that you can appreciate aesthetically without, and you have a really kind of deep aesthetic appreciation of it, the same way as you might have for the naked human form, with the same sort of intensity as you might have for the naked human form. And I don't identify as asexual because I do have and have had kind of sexual feelings, but I don't plan my kind of life and interactions with people around them. There you go. I don't, you know, alter my life in order to do things that I would not otherwise do in order to put myself in a position of being sexually gratified. There you go. That was a kind of roundabout way of saying it. And, you know, I always say, you know, that it's my Britishness, but not all British people are prudish, and but I think I can be a bit of a prude sometimes, and I don't mean to be. It's just that I often find talking about sex quite uncomfortable, and I don't think that that is because I'm repressed. It's just I don't find it particularly interesting or relevant to my life. And I like being on my own, and not being in a relationship. Something that you learn from the asexual community is that relationships don't have to be sexual. And I like having a few close friends and not being in a relationship and just being on my own. And sometimes I do fantasize about relationships, but it's like fantasizing about having a spaceship or living in a castle on top of a mountain and never seeing anyone, which there are days that I would like to do that, and there are days when I would like to just fall in love with someone and be swept off my feet and that sort of thing, and that would be fine too. But basically, I'm quite happy to be on my own, and it's another thing that is a great word that I learned from asexual blogs is a squish. A squish is like a crush, but it's not sexual. It's not. It's yeah, a non-sexual crush. It can be sort of romantic, I suppose. Like you want to spend time with someone, and it can be aesthetic. Like you appreciate how someone looks, but you don't want to have sex with them, and you don't think about them in your special alone time, as one might unednishly and evasively refer to it. And I get those kind of, I get squishes a lot, like when I want to be friends with someone and I just think you're fabulous and your style is amazing and you're funny and I want to be around you but not with you in that sense. And I get those a lot, squishes, and I really enjoy having squishes, and I enjoy the occasional crush as well, because attractions are fun, but I don't see them as being driving forces in how I organise and run my life. So yeah, I think that's about covered the topic. This was really interesting. Enjoyed this one, and I got to do a bit of internet research around the asexuality blogosphere, which I highly recommend. So yeah, I'll see you next week.